And taking on two undefeated teams the last 2 weeks, you can't really tell which team is the undefeated team and which isn't, but Nebraska finding a way to lose again, at this time in East Lansing, in their second Big Ten game of the year in overtime at Michigan State. Of course, this is Huskers Online, our Huskers live show here with Greg Peterson from Huskers Online. Join him there. And, of course, we invite you to bring your comments, your questions, your debate topics as we talk Nebraska football for the next hour. Hey, Greg.
How you doing, Mark?
That's the guy from Husker Online. There he is.
Yes,
right
me.
There.
Was I here? Was I not here? I don't know.
No. You are here. You are here, and it's a good thing you're here.
Hey, I don't know. We're just been enjoying those lazy fall days, those mellow fall days of 95 degrees here in Lincoln, Nebraska today. So, yeah, loving life.
Is it still 95 degrees out there?
It was 95. It is still 88 right now as we're on the air at 7:04 Central Time.
A couple weeks ago, it started to feel like fall for a few days, and I thought we were headed in that direction. Then it kicked back into summer, and then today was definitely the first one. I had to kind of bundle up, and you got that chill in the air, and it felt like fall, and I don't like it. I don't really want it.
Hate that feeling. Hate it.
Because it's not going back. This is pretty much the time. This was the day that I thought, okay, yeah, this is when it really sets in, and it's not going back. You're not going to be warm until next May,
You never know these days. Global warming,
yeah. All right. This Nebraska defense was certainly hot, especially in the second half. The offense didn't necessarily chip in. It was the same old story, Greg. The team played well enough to win in a lot of different ways, but made too many mistakes.
Yeah, it's like a broken record. Seriously, this is what we're talking about week in and week out. And, you point at the offensive line again and again and again with mistakes, and then the special teams keeps on letting you down in one area or another. This time it was the punting game. So yeah, it's just so hard because you've got one of the best defenses in the nation, and they showed that. They shut down the best rusher in the country, held him to hardly anything. And, a defense is proud, and they know they're good, but they're not going to point fingers at anybody, for losing a game because it's a team game. But, yeah, Nebraska, week in, week out, I mean, it seems like they find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. And once again, we saw it happen here at Michigan State. And it was a golden opportunity that they missed. And now, you go into, you're 2-3 now, and you're playing Northwestern, who's 2-2, and another night game. And, you got Nebraska, Northwestern, and holy cow, I mean, what can you say but expect the unexpected when Nebraska and Northwestern get together? So who knows what's going to happen moving forward? But we talked to Coach Mike Dawson today, the special teams coordinator, and then Sean Beckton as well, who helps out there with the returners, and they're upset, and the guys know, everybody that's on that. The punters, everybody that let the team down, they all know it. They know what they need to do, and it sucks because I think we say this week in and week out with problems going on there, and then you have to address the offensive line as well with the problems that are going on there as well, and yeah, it's just hard to say because you have a top notch, you have one of the better defensive units really out there in the country. And it's hard when you're wasting something like that. And, it's funny that, a couple of years ago we were talking about, hey, you need to start, this offense needs to start outscoring teams, 38 to 31 or something like that. And no, I think things have changed in the Big Ten that we're, 30 to 20 games are going to be the norm a lot. And, the formula to win games in the Big Ten is play top-notch defense and run the ball and don't make mistakes and turn the ball over. And, Nebraska is failing at one of those, one and a half maybe of those categories right now.
This defense gave up no first downs in the second half.
None, yeah.
And gave up only 252 yards of total offense. And so about 20, some of that came in overtime. So in regulation, gave up about 230 yards of total offense, which is minuscule.
Nebraska dominated time of possession, dominated yards on offense, and still come away with a loss. And, you got guys on that defense playing out of their minds. And we had Garrett Nelson in studio on Sunday afternoon, and he played the game of his career. And none of these guys are pointing fingers. They're pissed. They know they played a great game. They know they're a good defense, but they're pissed because they missed a few plays, and things could have been a lot better in their minds.
26 first downs for the Huskers, 12 for Michigan State. Completing or converting 35% on offense on third down is pretty respectable. It's decent. So that's what Nebraska did on offense and held Michigan State to 1 third down conversion out of 11. 0 for 1 on fourth down. So 1 for 12 for Michigan State on offense and 442 to 254 in total yardage. But the play of the second half and the play of the game turned out to be that punt return. And was there an explanation given to punting in the wrong direction? And basically, Michigan State kind of duped the coverage team.
I mean, we've heard from the coaches, and they're just saying that the guys knew what they did wrong, and they've been working on this. So, yeah, it's just bizarre how this stuff happens, and you would think that a lot of these guys have been in enough pressure moments, and you just do your job, and you can't just say, hey, everybody has a bad day, because this is going on week in and week out. And I know that they've been hammering it down. They've been in meetings, Sunday through today already, and guys know they're being held accountable. And I mean, coaches' jobs are on the line right now as well. And I think everybody's starting to get the message. And like you kind of mentioned earlier, Coach Frost is he's starting to pay more attention. Or not pay more attention, but to spend more of his time, being in the meetings there, the special teams meetings, and being in the offensive line meetings, and then actually going out there during practice and, taking over some of that coaching during those special teams times and during offensive line, periods. So, I think everybody's starting to feel a little bit of sense of urgency, and there's some heads going to be on the chopping block if things don't change and change quickly.
Appreciate everyone being here, joining us for our Nebraska discussion on a Tuesday night, as usual, at 7 o'clock Central Time. Alan has liked and shared and done all those good things, so follow Alan's lead, and please like the videos, share these videos out on social media, subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football Nebraska, and let people know that we're here talking Huskers every Tuesday night, win or lose. And I got to say that Oklahoma is supposed to be one of the top 5 teams in the country. That was a one-possession game. I don't know that they are, but they certainly have the ability to be. And then this Michigan State team came in, of course, undefeated and playing really well, really laid it to Miami and Northwestern, and Nebraska outplayed them. And I don't know who the better team is. I would say going into the game, I thought it was Michigan State. Now I'm not so sure. I think they're pretty comparable from a talent standpoint, definitely. And now Nebraska takes on a Northwestern team that's pretty shaky. They've only beaten FCS in group of 5 teams. They lost at Duke. They gave up 30 points in the first half to Duke, and now they lost a game. I'm losing it against Michigan State was their other loss,
Yep.
of course, by 3 touchdowns. So if Nebraska doesn't win at home against Northwestern, and I know what you think of this series and that strange things happen, but they're better than Northwestern. I think I got a pretty good gauge on that through 4 or 5 games that they should win this game.
Well, yeah, Nebraska should have won all their other games too, outside of Oklahoma, and arguably they should have beaten Oklahoma. And I tell you right now, when you talk to the Nebraska players, they think they should be a 5-0 team right now. And barring some stupid things, self-inflicted errors, they could easily be a 5-0 team right now. Northwestern, okay, yeah, they're down year. There's not another team in college football that was decimated by the transfer portal and graduation, and so Pat Fitzgerald's had to put that unit together with duct tape pretty much. But then you see Pat Fitzgerald actually go on, during his press conference yesterday, talk about, Nebraska's defense and praising them so much. And, because he's the master of that. He's trying to get in your head, thinking that, they don't have a chance. But I guarantee you Northwestern's going to come in here and put up the battle of their lives. They always do. That's the way this series has happened. Is they've played each other 10 years now since Nebraska joined the Big Ten, and this game is always one of the best games to watch year in and year out. So you think Nebraska might be overlooking Northwestern because you got Michigan coming in here into town next weekend for another night game, 3 night games in a row for Nebraska. I think this team is pumped up right now and ready to crack some heads. And, like I said, don't be surprised. What's that? I don't know what that is. But anyway.
Blame me.
Okay.
Even if I've got my phone off, it still goes through the board anyway, so there's really nothing I can do about it. But anyway.
Yeah, it kind of shocked me right there. I was like, do I have FaceTime on somewhere? But anyway, no, expect a dogfight. But like you said, Nebraska's the better team going into this game. And I think if all things click, you could actually see Nebraska finally, kind of break out of their shell and become that team that a lot of Husker fans have been waiting to see. But like I said, who knows? I mean, this game's always a toss-up, and Pat Fitzgerald is kind of a master of manipulation. And if there's any coach in the nation that knows how to get his team up for a game, it's Pat Fitzgerald.
True. He has never had the most talented team in the division, but he's won the division 2 out of the last 3 years. He most likely won't do that this year, but never count that guy out. Samuel Buda, Mark and Greg, 2 a.m., played his keister off. Large heart displayed at the end, and I know Scott Frost made the comment that Adrian Martinez is playing at a elite level. I don't know that I would go that far, but I get the point.
Well, I mean, if you really see Adrian, if you watch him closely, I mean, because Coach Frost, I'll quote him here, saying that he's the most athletic quarterback in the nation. And I won't go that far, but, I think he's pretty close to that. Because Adrian Martinez can make plays. And you saw him, he got his head hammered down to the turf. And he wasn't ready to give up. Logan Smothers came in and moved the team down the field. If it wasn't for a couple of stupid mistakes, Nebraska still can win that game. And you saw Adrian Martinez. I mean, Adrian Martinez still wanted to come into that game. But he played his ass off. And if he had a little bit of help from an offensive line that has so much promise in it, but just needs to start gelling together and know how to play together, we're talking a little bit of a different story here. But yeah, Adrian Martinez, I think, is playing at one of the best levels he's ever played in his whole career right now.
Alan's looking for a prediction. Alan, I gotta honor my folks over on Patreon. So all the top 25 games,
wait,
and then we'll throw in the Nebraska game too on Patreon. What's that, Greg?
I was just saying he's got to wait.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to wait. I don't make predictions on Tuesday night at the drop of a hat. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Moonbot with his weekly grades. Here you go. Defense, A. Offense, C. Special teams, F again. Well, obviously they made the play of the game in a negative way, but I don't know if it was you would grade them out to an F because that was the one big gaffe, but they did make a couple kicks and so forth. So I don't know if it's an F, but
it's pretty close if it's not. I mean, I think what they averaged out that they gave up on punt, on not catching the ball on a punt. It was somewhere between 45 and 50 yards of field position that they gave up because they did refuse to catch a punt. Those are problems right there. And, I mean, give Michigan State's punter, give him credit. I mean, my God, he's pretty darn good. But, I don't know why you were scared to just grab the ball and then you give up that bad punt return that kind of breaks your back. And I mean, special teams, I mean, I don't see anything really good. I mean, okay, maybe you made your field goals for a change, but you should not be being graded down there in the F category or C minus category, in my opinion, because there's three aspects of winning football. It's offense, defense, and special teams. And right now, Nebraska's failing on special teams with a big fat F right now through 5 games of the season.
So, Greg, you've got to give me the scoop. We've been talking about the Yantee forever. You got to give me the scoop on exactly what is the deal here. He's obviously a fan favorite, but he doesn't see the field. And is this just kind of a running joke? What do we got here?
Well, I mean, it's that running back room's pretty crowded right now. I mean, it always has been, and he's he's a young guy, and you got to give him a little bit of time, wait his turn a little bit, because this is kind of a rotating deal right now. You lost Gabe Urban, to kind of trim that down, and he's going to get his chances, but he's still a freshman right now, and he can still redshirt him. I mean, he's played. I think he's been in 1 game, maybe 2, and I think right now they're looking at redshirting him, and so you probably only expected to see him play for another 2 games at the most, and have him as a weapon coming in later as he learns. So I mean, because you got a marquee step right there. That basically he's the heir apparent to, and Step has another year coming up as well, and you got to give him time, because like I said, they kind of go right now when their back rotation is they go with the hot guy. They had named Gabe Urban as a starter, but he didn't really start every game because somebody else was out there for the opening snap a couple of times, but he's out of the picture, and right now it's kind of whoever they name as a starter is not necessarily the starter, is the point I'm trying to make. And you're going to see 3 or 4 guys in there, and whoever's they're kind of feeling right at the moment, that's the guy that's going to get the playing time. So yeah, Jacques has a lot a lot of sunshine looking at him down the future here, and just be patient with him because he's a talented young man, and they're happy to have him on the roster, and I know Ryan Held thinks very highly of him. So just be a little bit patient with him. You'll see the big Yanty out there, as Moonbot named him.
We've got about 60 or 70 online. I just tweeted again that we're here talking Huskers with Greg every Tuesday night. So if everybody jumps on their social media tonight and every week, lets people know that we're here talking Huskers football. That can be your assignment to everyone. Let's round up a big crowd for next Tuesday night at 7 Central Time. All right. And to that point, the comment made by Toby here is that Savion looked good. Savion Morrison, why did they take him out? Ramir Johnson, who had a nice game statistically, 19 carries, 76 yards, should not be running between the tackles.
Well, Ramir that's something that he's been working on, and he's actually improved at quite a bit, is running inside. And just like we just talked about, is that there's a lot of talented dudes in that running back room right now, and Savion. I mean, Savion was out there today. He was in the post game press conference today. There was only 2 players that showed up, and Brody Belt was the other one, another running back that was a little bit farther down on the depth chart. But Savion knows that he's right in there in the mix, and who knows? This Saturday against Northwestern, Savion might be the guy to get, 80, 90 yards rushing and a couple of touchdowns. So, yeah, right now, I mean, it's just they're looking for a good combination. They're looking for a guy that's going to take that job over. And it's an open competition day in and day out right now in that running back room.
Navy Thomas, there he is.
Hey, Navy!
Once Bob Stoops. I really don't think Bob Stoops is going to coach again. I don't know the man, so I don't know what's between his ears and what his ambitions are. But the further you are away from the game, the less likely it is that somebody's going to come back from retirement. Although Mac Brown did it after 6 years.
Yeah, but why would you want to take over a dumpster fire like this if Scott Frost is fired from Nebraska? I mean,
well, Mac Brown took over North Carolina.
Yeah, but he'd already been there once. Or you're talking the first time?
No, I'm talking this last time. They won 5 games in 2 years before Mac Brown showed up.
Stoops has no ties to Nebraska. Why would he want to do that? That's my point.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also been stated in here a number of times that, and I have no idea.
If you fire Scott Frost, who wants to take this job? If Scott Frost can get fired, seriously, it's a silly question. Who wants to take that on unless you're bringing in some first time coach that, I don't know.
Well, let me make this question. And I make it as half comment, half question, because I about half believe it to be true, and the other half of me is asking the question. Is this the toughest job in America?
God, it's darn close to it. If I don't dare me to name one that's tougher, seriously, right now. I can't think of one. Really, I can't. USC might be tough right now. Whoops, we lost Mark here, so I'll keep on talking. But, I don't know. I do not know if I could think of another tougher job right now of an embattled program, besides one right now in turmoil is USA. I mean, because it looks like Florida State's gotten the ship righted a little bit. Tennessee looks like they're back on track a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, this might be the toughest job in America right now. I can't hear you. I cannot hear any audio, by the way, if you can hear me.
Is
Oh,
that
there
better?
you go.
Finally. Okay. I was in the middle of explaining. None of that story was heard. I was in the middle of explaining
Did anybody hear
that
me?
what happened here was that it reminded me of being at TV master control rooms where you never in a million years would think if you tossed a pen to somebody that you would land it right on the button that would punch a source to air or take you off the air or anything like that. So what happened was my earpiece was sitting on the chair under me, and it was getting tangled up, so I just pulled it out and I just dropped it on the floor, and it landed perfectly on my power strip off on button and knocked me off. That's what happened the first time when I went to color bars. So when I turned it all back on,
I kept on going. Did everybody keep hearing me?
yeah, you were still on.
Well,
So
I
then,
thought so. That's why I kept on going.
so when I turned the power strip back on, I figured I was back on, but I didn't realize that shut off the audio board, and I had to manually punch that back up too. So, all right.
That's what we usually call amateurs in the business. But
yes.
yeah, how many years in?
30 some. All right.
Where were we?
Toughest job in America. Okay, this is the reason why I say this, and because I think it's so much tougher than the places you mentioned, in my estimation. I think the expectations are just as high as the places you mentioned, Tennessee, Florida State, but they've got players all over the place. See, that's the one thing I'll say about Nebraska is the expectations versus the talent pool around that region, that area, is tough to match. Is tough to make a match between the expectations of Nebraska football with, you go to Tennessee, you're in the deep South. You go to Florida, obviously, it's the best recruiting state along with Texas in the nation. You got players all over the place. That's why I think, again, without really thinking it through, doing research, anything like that off the top of my head, I don't know that there's a tougher place. There are tougher places to win, but to match the expectation.
And and my point kind of goes to, you think of the college football blue bloods. Nebraska's been the one of those. You think, and I'm talking the top 5-6 programs in college football history with the most wins, and Nebraska has been on the biggest downturn out of all of those right now. A lot of them have had their problems. We've seen Oklahoma struggle through some bad times. We've seen Texas struggle through some bad times. Florida State, obviously, we've seen struggle. Michigan, we've seen struggle. I mean, we're talking all these top 5, top 10 programs in college football history, and in my opinion, right now in 2021, this is the toughest job in the country if you are, one of those blue blood programs. I mean, 1 through 25, if you want to, somebody wants to go, make a poll of that and come up with your top 25 of all time, with wins and national titles and all that. So yeah, I think this is the toughest place because you don't have a fertile recruiting ground. You make your living on recruiting coast to coast. You have to. So yeah, the challenges here, and that's why why Scott Frost was so successful when he went to UCF is because he had 100 D1 recruits within an hour driving distance of his own office. So the challenges are definitely much tougher here for a very proud, traditional college football blue blood.
I don't know how to correct that. I don't know what has to be done. Because I don't know I don't know what the difference is in recruiting today versus recruiting 20 years ago when they were getting those players, or maybe they just developed better.
Completely changed. The recruiting game's completely changed since then. Yeah, it's night and day. It really is. Because 20 years ago, you weren't talking about recruiting. You weren't talking about recruiting services like Rivals.com,
sure,
or 24/7. Or On3, which is a new outlet that just started. Hell, when I got hired in this business from Rivals.com, I didn't care about recruiting. I hadn't even heard about Rivals.com. I mean, they were a fledgling company, but you know what? I was a college football fan, and I was passionate about college football, and I was just so happened to have a broadcasting degree and was good with the camera. And that's basically why I got hired at Rivals in the first place. And that's when I learned about recruiting. So, yeah, you never, Tom Osborne, recruiting never came up in those areas. You just kind of, it was something that you just lived with that, oh, yeah, you're Nebraska, you're going to get whoever you want to get. And, a lot of those teams, I mean, most, Nebraska teams are always built on, a lot of guys that are from the state of Nebraska, big, burly, hardworking, blue-collar guys. And then you add all these skill position guys from other parts of the country. So it's very challenging to build a team like that these days when you're competing against, and you got kids from the South that don't want to go very far away from home anymore. I mean, there's so many factors that go into it. And, because now everybody's on TV now. That makes it different too. That, back in the day when, hey, you could go play to Nebraska or in Oklahoma and, you're going to be on TV. But nowadays everybody's on TV. So that kind of changes kids' decisions as well. And yeah, it's crazy. The differences that have happened over the years.
Yeah. So recruiting,
I'm going to write a book on this, one of these days. I'm going to have to.
You should.
Yeah. And I want to have a beer with Jeffrey, just by the way. Anytime you want to have a beer, I'm there for you, buddy.
There you go. You boys have a good time. I guess I didn't get invited.
I hope you like Budweiser. Anytime you're here, hey, Mark, anytime you're in town, buddy.
If I ever make it out that way, absolutely, you would be the first person I'd look up.
Yeah.
So when it comes to recruiting, yeah, I get everything you said. It all makes sense. It's all the truth. So to me, what's different about recruiting is, social media and all the attention and all the sites, and people talk about it, and we produce videos about it, and people are just fixated on it, where years and years ago, you're right. When I first started watching college football, we didn't even think about recruiting. The players just kind of showed up on the field, and we didn't know where they came from. Obviously, I'm kidding, but nobody talked about it. It wasn't a big deal.
No, it wasn't.
But and the population had just started to shift south and shift west, so there were better players in the Midwest at that point. So that has something to do with it, but the process of recruiting was the same thing. It was, you have to acquire talent.
Yeah. You had a scholarship limit, and you wanted to fill that every year. And, just like Jeffrey's question right now, with Kansas State getting a couple of Nebraska kids, that's a matter of the times right now we're in, with Nebraska only going to be taking 13 kids in this recruiting class, in this recruiting cycle, because you have a backlog of guys with COVID and everything. And you know what? There's kids that those kids want to play. They dream about playing for Nebraska, but there's just not a Nebraska offer coming down the pipe for them. So, you take your next best option right now. And K-State has always done a good job of recruiting the state of Nebraska. And, in these days and times too, when you're talking about kids coming out of like the Omaha metro area, where you have, probably the top 4 players in the state, they're not committed to Nebraska. They're committed elsewhere. You got one going to Missouri. You got one going to Oklahoma. You got one going to K-State. These guys didn't grow up Nebraska fans when they were little kids. Some of them might have been transplants that came in later, but in their day and time, Nebraska's not been a good team, not been a dominant team. So it changes the aspect a little bit of that typical recruit coming out of the state. Now, I mean, if you shift more towards Lincoln or out west, a little bit farther from the Omaha metro area, still most of those kids are, if you're coming from a smaller town and stuff, everything you see every day is Nebraska, is Huskers. Everybody wears a Husker shirt. Every little every shop in the town has a Husker flag or, a sticker on the window or whatever. So it's a little bit different there. But yeah, just to my point is that recruiting has changed so much, and just the in-state recruiting as well. But you just don't get too worried about, Kansas State plucking a couple of guys. If Nebraska had offered those guys, they would have been here. But this is just one of those years where, in-state offers are going to be few and far between at this point.
If you're a top 5 recruiting school, we know who they are, and you sign 20 to 25 players like everybody else, I'm trying to estimate what the context and the distribution of the stars are. I got to think with 20 to 25 signees for an LSU, Ohio State, etc., we know who the teams are, that they get 3 or 4 5-stars.
Yeah.
And they probably get like 12 or 15 4-stars.
Yeah. 10 to 15 4-stars.
And then maybe 4 or 5 or 3-stars.
Right. And then, if you go down, it's not that big of a difference. If you're talking about your top 5 like that, if you go down the ladder to like 15 to 18, then you're only looking at maybe 0 5-stars to maybe 1 5-star to 5 or 6 or 8 4-stars, and the rest of your class is 3-stars. So the gap really it's not as big as you think it is.
It sounds like it's big.
Well, I mean, it's top heavy. But like I'm saying, I'm just trying to. My point is that once you get outside of that top 5 or whatever, you're not that far.
Oh, I got you. After the top 5.
After the top 5,
yeah,
you're pretty darn close to
yep.
For the next 20 maybe schools.
Absolutely.
So
I agree with that. Like if you look at the number 15 class in the country and number 30,
not much different.
Not a whole lot. Yeah.
No. But
Okay,
I mean,
my next point.
those schools that are top heavy, yeah. I mean, they're the ones that are, the rich get richer always, like we say, and you throw the transfer portal in there as well, and the rich are always getting richer.
Especially when you
Oh, Nick
consider,
Saban.
especially when you consider that's one class. There's 4 to 5 classes on the roster, so multiply that 4 or 5 times, and it widens even more.
It's like, it's got to be it's got to be a nice luxury to have to turn down 5-star guys that want to come and play for you because your class is already filled out.
So, Greg, match up what we just said about what the typical top 5 class in America looks like versus a top 15 to 30 class. Okay, how many 4 stars does the state of Nebraska produce every year? 2 or 3?
Yeah, you might be being generous right there.
Okay.
This year you have 3, and that's pretty good. That's pretty good for the state. So yeah, I mean, you're not going to have more than 3 or 4 every year here out of the state of Nebraska. Everybody else is pretty much 3 stars, and some 2 stars that might end up being diamonds in the rough. But yeah, you don't get very many. I mean, Nebraska's got their top commit out of the states, Jake Applegate from Lincoln Southeast here, and he's a 3-star. So you got your Deshaun Woods and Jackson, Desmond Jackson. They're 4 stars, and then you got Micah Riley Helms, who's another 4 stars. So those are the top 3 guys. They're all 4 stars that are committed elsewhere. So yeah, actually, so that makes 3. There's only 3 4 stars in the state this year. Yep.
So I would say to the typical Nebraska fan, I would say, okay, for a second, forget about going back to the 90s. Forget about winning national championships. Not that I don't want to crush your dreams, but let's start with this, because that's going to be a huge leap to compete with those schools year in, year out. But it's not unreasonable to think that Nebraska can't be Wisconsin or Iowa. And they're finishing in the top 15 in the country most years. They're in that range, especially Wisconsin. And they have the talent issue that Nebraska has, basically the same thing, right?
Yeah. There's nothing different. I mean, you're basically recruiting the same guys. Same guys. It's just how you've developed it, and you know what I mean. Iowa and Wisconsin have been doing the same thing for a long time. And you're forgetting that Scott Frost is only in his 4th year here. With the philosophy that he came in here trying to turn this team into a high flying, high scoring team, that's not the case. That's not how you win ball games in the Big Ten. And so now you're just now finally starting to build your team to win games in the Big Ten. And you see right now that the defense is a little bit more ahead of the offense, and you got a ton of young guys on both sides of this ball right now. So as soon as these guys learn to play together, it's going to be a lot different than what we've been seeing here since Scott Frost took over this program. Because I mentioned it last week, and I saw a lot of people quote that on Twitter and everything, that this is the best built football team that I've ever seen to compete in the Big Ten Conference that I've ever seen since we've joined the Big Ten Conference. And, like I just said, the defense is a little bit ahead of the offense right now. And, Eric Schneider has these guys playing at a top-notch level. And, watch out any offense that's going to have to play Nebraska the rest of the year.
So from a strength and conditioning standpoint, this team is better than the team that was the first team to play in the Big Ten that went to the championship game.
Well, I said under Scott Frost.
Okay. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go back to Mike Riley as well. I mean, I'll throw his teams in there as well. You're going back to that first year in the Big Ten that, that was actually a pretty darn good football team that, had been built. There was a lot of there was holdovers there from Bill Callahan era and stuff. And so, yeah, Bud Pelini had some pretty good, talented guys on that team. So, and they were still an imposing team back then. So, I'm just saying right now in the Big Ten era, under Coach Frost, right now this is what we've seen. And Coach Riley, this is one of the best ever, and it's only going to get better and better.
Hey, we appreciate everybody being here. And John, thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. Appreciate that so much. Thank you for that. Would also like to remind everyone out there that if you got a connection to a potential sponsor, a business out there that could benefit from sponsoring here at the Voice of College Football anywhere on any of the channels, but specifically here on the Nebraska channel, then hit me up at markrogerstv@gmail, markrogerstv@gmail, because we would love to do this as long as possible and be here for all of you on Tuesday nights. So again, John, thank you for that. He says, thank you for your time tonight, guys. GBR.
Yeah, thanks, John. We appreciate that.
So what happens next year when 10 starters walk off the defense and move on to the NFL or to their next career?
10? Man, there's no 10 starters that are going away.
They're not going to lose 10 starters off this defense?
No. You're going to lose your secondary, your three guys in the secondary, and a nose tackle and a defensive end, and JoJo Doman.
So about 6.
Yeah, that's about
okay.
Yeah. I mean, you got a ton of guys coming in to replace those guys that's the beauty of this very, very deep defense that they've already developed here. So hey, Casey Rogers, you can throw him in there too, but he's been hurt. But there's not 10 starters that are going to need to be replaced. Because right now you have a solid 22 guys in there that are rotating. They're all playing pretty quality minutes.
Got more people wanting predictions. I will say this again. I'm on Patreon. Join us on Patreon. I got all my predictions there. I do about 25 per week. Plus, Greg joins in on a media contest that we got going on where we do 12 games. Do a little 12-pack. I don't know. I haven't added those up yet. So we do a 12-pack with 20 media members every week where we pick them straight up and against the spread. And then I do more games than that, and I release those on Patreon. So I gotta honor those folks. I can't give away my picks here.
I was just excited when I was filling mine out last week that I saw that I'd climbed up to 19 and 18.
Woo! Get a good week.
Let's see what happened. Oh, it's not updated yet.
No, I haven't touched them. I'm pretty busy. I don't know if I'll get to that even tomorrow. Well, I got to get them out to everyone, so I better get to it. I know I went 11 and 9. No, I went 12 and 9, but that wasn't those 12. So I don't know what I did in those 12 against the spread.
But yeah, if anybody goes after, don't follow my picks. I mean, don't get mad if you.
Well, that's the thing. I say don't follow my picks. You'll hear me brag about my picks when I had a good week, but I don't need people being mad at me either. They are what they are. No, it's 53 and 36 against the spread. Well, that is my total record. Yeah, against the spread. So that's.
Obviously, I picked Nebraska last week, and I bombed out on that one. So, oh well.
Well, I took them with the spread.
Well, yeah, I think I did too. Yeah, I did too. So,
John is letting us know that Damian Daniels is playing like a guy who wants to get drafted.
Yes, he is. Oh, big time. Yeah. Damian's he's learned what it takes to make himself a top-notch football player. It took him 4 years, but he's redone his body, he's reshaped his body, and has made himself available to put in as many snaps as you can get him in there for, and he's got a renewed passion, I think, in this game, and he's playing at the highest level he's ever played in his life. And I think, having his brother come in here and for 1 year and become a captain for 1 year that he was here, I think that kind of did a little something to him that made that light turn on there in the pilot house for Damian. But yes, he's playing great right now. And along with, I mean, you can just go up and down the line, front 7 guys that are just playing out of their minds right now. I mean, Garrett Nelson had the game of his life, and Luke Reimer is playing crazy. JoJo Doman, Nick Henrich, all these guys are they're playing at such a high level right now, and they're playing fast, they're playing violent, and that's what you like to see as a defensive-minded guy. I mean, hell, Mark, I was a defensive player. I was a headhunter. That's what I loved. I love seeing guys play like that.
It's tough to play like that these days.
Yeah,
with the way the rules are.
You get thrown out of the game.
Yeah, let's not get started on targeting right now. Rob Johnson, just want to let you know, if we see any inaccurate information in the live chat, you know that I'm a stickler for this. I'm going to catch it, and we're gonna call you out. So Mike Riley was not 22 games over 500 at Nebraska. It was 19-19.
What? Wow, he was actually 19-19. I didn't know that.
Yes, he went 6-7, 9-4, 4-8.
Okay. Well, that's not good enough at Nebraska.
12-14 in the Big Ten.
Not good enough. And like I've said many times on the show, love Coach Riley. One of the best dudes you would ever meet. You sit down and have a coffee with him and get all his old war stories. Be the time of your life. Enjoy an In-N-Out burger with him.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, you just said
Predictions coming in. Stephanie likes Nebraska 17-3.
I like that. That's pretty. Whew. Yeah, that sounds to me like that would be a type of score with this series that you see that's usually pretty close. And the way Nebraska's playing defense right now, I could easily see that score being 17-3. Nice call, Stephanie.
Absolutely. If you can tell me that Nebraska is not going to turn the ball over inside, let's say, their own 40, or make a special teams gaffe, that Northwestern's very limited on offense, very limited this year on offense, are struggling to squeeze out first downs, that this defense could put up a score like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, you just saw them. You just saw that defense, that performance they put on last week, especially in the second half. I could easily see them shut Northwestern down to next to nothing.
Yeah,
and then maybe throw in maybe a pick 6 or 2 on top of that. And then maybe just see Nebraska offensively. Hey, might be the time just to get your running game in order. Run the ball and just keep running it. And possess the ball, dominate that time of possession, and get everything right moving into next week when you got to play Michigan.
Yeah, so Northwestern, they have tried all sorts of quarterbacks this year. They're down to the South Carolina transfer. Yeah, Ryan Hilinski started last week against Ohio, threw for 88 yards.
The Fighting Frankies.
Yeah, they were playing the Bobcats last week. Yes. And they decided to run it down their throats, which makes sense. They ran for 373 yards. They can't do that against Nebraska, of course. And they threw for 88. Ryan Hilinski's the latest quarterback. He started at South Carolina, so he's originally out at Washington State. Decent player, decent quarterback. But before that, they had Hunter Johnson, the former 5-star that just continues not to work out there. And then they brought in, I can't think of the second guy, who was very lightly recruited, but he actually did some nice things. I think he got hurt. They had to come back. One of the scores that shocked me a few weeks ago, they were down to Duke 30-7 at halftime. Then they made it a run in the second half, and they almost pulled it out. But not a vintage Northwestern team this year.
No. now.
Mustrick showed up.
It's like we like to say, it should be one of those feel-good games again for Nebraska. Just kind of like what we went off with Fordham and Buffalo back-to-back after that embarrassing loss at Illinois. But like we just said, like we've talked about, expect the unexpected in this series because it always seems to go down to the wire. And I don't care what your talent level is on either side, if you're Northwestern or Nebraska. So we'll see. I'll be curious to see what, in pregame warmups. I'm going to be curious to see just the attitude that Northwestern has there on the sideline and see how they are warming up. And because I'm really expecting it's a night game here in Lincoln. You have not had a night game here since Ohio State was here in 2019. So the atmosphere here in Lincoln is going to be electric. I'm guaranteeing you that right now. And, you've got a fan base that really is really hungry right now for not just a win, but like a statement dominating type of win. Because like I just mentioned, you got Michigan coming in here next week for another night game here at Memorial Stadium. And, I saw somebody out there saying that we should get you tickets to come here and see the Sea of Red, but it's something special to see a night game here at Memorial Stadium in Lincoln. You have goosebumps the whole time, and you probably wouldn't sit down the whole game either.
The money is coming in on the Huskers. They opened as an 8-point favorite. It's up to 11.5.
I'm not surprised. I mean, like we always say, Vegas is pretty smart about this stuff anyway. And you got to look at, like we just talked about, that Nebraska's got a pretty suffocating defense right now. And unless Nebraska's not giving away points, on special teams and stuff, I think you look at Nebraska to be like we just talked about with Jennifer's pick, about 17-3. I think easily Nebraska 14 points or more in my book right now, and we'll see what happens. By Saturday it might be up to like 14.
Well, I will say that I expect Nebraska to win. I believe that they have substantially a better team, but I will say that I would not be surprised. Because we see it all over the place every week.
No, if you're a logical human being, no, you would not be surprised if Northwestern walks out of Lincoln with a win. You would be stupid.
Yeah, we've both seen way too much college football to be surprised.
Yeah.
Mustrick here. This may finish us off for the night. Asking this question. Good to see you, Mustrick. How do you have 3 freshmen starting on the offensive line in year 4? Nebraska is development program. I remember kids would wait until their junior year to play. That's when we were good.
It's all about talent that you recruited.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got right now, you've got 2 of those guys that are labeled freshmen that are, bottom line, 2 of the highest rated recruits in Nebraska history on the offensive line with Turner Corcoran and Bryce Benhart. And Benhart's been struggling a little bit, and I wouldn't be surprised if they might make a change there. And then you got Teddy Prohaska, who's a true freshman, who's another 6'9" monster, and he's been playing his butt off lately. And they're trying to hold him to 4 games and redshirt him, but they might not be able to do that. Yeah, you've got a very young offensive line, but that's because they're very talented and highly ranked kids that come in here. And you're talking about some very, very large human beings, which goes into what we've been talking about. The way I think that this Nebraska team's built for the Big Ten is because you do have these massive guys. And, as soon as they learn how to play together a little bit more, you got a special group of dudes, so that's why. And the other guys they're backing them up and stuff are not very old either. So you've got a ton of very, very young guys on this offensive line. So don't be surprised if you see Brock Bando in there this weekend, who's back now, who's been hurt. So they've got a lot of options there, and it's a work in progress right now until they can find some consistency there that stops making some stupid penalty mistakes with penalties and stuff. So that's why he got a bunch of young guys starting.
Rob, unless I'm missing something here, I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. I just posted your comment about Riley being 22 games over 500. And now you're saying that, come on, Mark, I'm calling you out. Riley was not above 500 from game 16 to game 37. Come on. I don't know what that means. Mike Riley was 19-19. That's the bottom line. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that statement means.
Things didn't work out with Coach Riley. That's all we have to say. God bless him. Thanks. We appreciated your time here, and we love you. And but yeah, we've moved on.
All right. Every Tuesday night, everyone, 8:00 Eastern, 7:00 Central. Be here, please, and bring your friends. We topped out around 100 or so. 110 here on the chat. We can do much better than that. Please bring your Nebraska friends in particular. But hey, we've got all sorts of college football fans here represented in the chat. So if you love college football, join in a fun time of discussion and debate and arguing over Mike Riley's record, which we can find on Google.
And I will, before we sign off too, I do have we didn't get asked, but I do have a couple of injury updates so that
yes,
people in on. Oliver Martin is back at practice, so he looks like he should be good to go. As that starting slot receiver that they haven't had all year. So that should help out the offensive side of the ball with weapons. Casey Rogers, defensive end, he should be good to go as well. And then everybody is always wanting to know what about Thomas Fidoni, who's been out for the year. And we talked with Coach Beckton today, and he is not yet cleared for football activity, but is super, super close. He has been out there in meetings all the time, and he's been doing individual workouts. So expect for Thomas Fidoni to get back in the action here and, play a good 4 games here this year and take his red shirt. So there you go.
Very nice. Nebraska Northwestern under the lights, Memorial Stadium, Lincoln, coming up on Saturday, looking for the first Big Ten win of 2021.
Should be
all
fun.
Right, Greg.
Should be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
We'll do it all again next week.
Absolutely.
And I'll be watching. Maybe I'll pick you out on the sideline.
Yeah, I'm always there.
Okay.
Look for me in the end zone.
All right, everyone. See you back here next Tuesday. Enjoy the game.